What's up, my dudes? With the addition of subclassing in ESO, I've been tinkering around with some build ideas, and I think I've created a damage over time build that's truly amazing, and I'm excited to share it with you dudes. Make sure to stick around for the full video because there's a lot of detail in how the build functions that you don't want to be unaware of. Firstly, I'm going to talk about the idea that I initially had when I was designing this build. I thought that using DragonKnight's DOT pressure with an Arcanist's laser sounded like a great idea for PvP. The reality of that though is that Arcanist's laser can be quite difficult in 1v1 scenarios, and AoE is mainly set up for attacking multiple targets. So I had to optimize this idea so I could still benefit from the amazing passives of the Arcanist tree. With that in mind, and getting rid of the laser in the build entirely, this is what I came up with. With subclassing, it really doesn't matter what class you've initially picked, as long as you're either a DK, an Arcanist, or a Warden. Towards the end of the video, I'll put a breakdown of the damage over time as I have in previous videos, and just why this build is so busted. The race you want to choose is Nord, mainly for that extra resistance. This build is very resistance heavy, but trust me, it just works for some reason. We will be using the Jewels of Misroll food, and be benefiting from the increased resource regeneration. Tri-stat potions are always a great idea, but I find Essence of Immovability to be nice on this build, just so you don't have to worry about wasting stamina on breaking free. It also gives you stamina and increased movement speed for 15 seconds, which can help with a clean getaway or a quick engagement. The equipment I'm using won't be changing, but you could try some other damage sets if you're not into the one that I've chosen. This build does not use a monster set, and it doesn't use an antiquity gear piece. But the tough part is the weapons, but we'll get to that in a bit. The first set we are using is the Legacy of Karth Set. This set is very underused in my opinion because it doesn't seem like it's all that damaging, but trust me on this, it has its uses. I have the Karth Set slotted in the head position, in the shoulder position, in the hand position, in the waist position, and in the boots position. You can see the enchantments and traits I'm using by pausing the video here. Basically, this set is going to add another damage tick to your equipped poison, which we will get to in a moment when we cover the weapons. This also gives you another status effect since it's disease damage, which per the ESO description, deals instant damage and splashes to nearby enemies, as well as applies Minor Defile for 4 seconds, reducing their healing taken and shield strength. Pretty nice, but we'll build on why here soon. The second set that I'm running is Mark of the Pariah. Yes, I'm old school, I love this set, and I've been using this and Daedric Trickery on my PvP DKs for as long as I can remember. I have it equipped on the chest position, in the leg position, and all of the jewelry positions. This allows me to reap the benefit of both of my sets on both bars. Basically, this will keep your resistances at max as your health decreases and enemies apply armor reductions to you. Powerful, right? You can see all the enchantments and traits here if you'd like to pause the video to review them. Now for the weapons. Both of the weapon sets are a real pain to get, I'm not gonna lie, but they are so worth the time it takes to get them. The first is dual-wielded Master's Perfected Maces, which can be acquired in the Dragonstar Arena found in Craglorn. Here you can see the poison I'm using as well as the traits on them. To make this poison, you will combine Nirnroot, Fleshfly Larva, and Nightshade. This will create a poison that inflicts 9 dots in total across 6 seconds itself. Add in the Karth Set and that's another 6 dots. So that's 15 damage dot ticks in 6 seconds. The pressure this applies is insane, and that only gets better. The back bar weapon, and bear with me here, yet another weapon that's a real pain to get. The Vateshran's Perfected Ice Staff with frost damage enchantment and powered for additional healing when it's on your back bar. What this set does is when you use the ability Weakness to Elements on an enemy within 15 meters, it creates a beam of damage from you to them. As long as nothing comes between the two of you and you stay in that range, it will continue to damage the enemy every 1 second for 10 seconds, and the damage increases with each tick. After 10 seconds, this beam will disappear and you'll have to recast Weakness to Elements to get the beam going again, which is great because you can have this up for 100% of the fight and it prompts you to reapply armor reduction to your target with the weakness to element skill. I'm honestly a huge fan of this staff because it's just another dot that you can apply and just watch it do the work for 10 seconds while you stay close to your opponent. The Mundus stone that I'm using is the Lover. Gotta have that high penetration in PvP to deal with your tanky foes, but if you wanted to choose something else, I would go for increased stamina recovery that the Serpent provides, and the reason for that is the lower stamina pool that we will be using. You can see here we're only at 20,000, but we'll talk about that. Now the breakdown for skills that I'm using. The 3 class sets I'm using are Draconic Power, Winter's Embrace, and Herald of the Tome. On the front bar, in slot 1, I'm using Recuperative Treatise. This is going to give us major brutality at all times and will make our next skills hit harder and give us some magicka and stamina. In slot 2, I'm using Fulminating Rune. This is a great damage over time that comes built into the Arcanist Tome class, and it has some AoE burst as well as a synergy for allies to trigger. In trialing of this set in Cyrodiil, I saw many opponents get popped by the synergy. Do not underestimate how hard it can hit when you're working with others. This synergy also deals frost damage, which I believe the passives of Winter Embrace affect, but we will get to that. In slot 3, we have Cephaliarch's Flail. This will immobilize enemies hit, increase all our damage, dots included, by 5% as well as heal us once per cast. In slot 4, I'm using Blood Craze. This works with our Master's Perfected Maces by dealing increased damage on the initial hit and increased damage of the dot that is applied. Not only that, but each time this ability damages an enemy, it is healing you both on initial damage and on the damage over time. In slot 5, I'm using Camouflaged Hunter to benefit from the increased critical chance, and this will be particularly useful for finding Night Blades, as they seem to be the new meta. The ultimate I'm using is Flawless Dawnbreaker because it has amazing DOT damage and a powerful initial impact, as well as damage increase bonus for 20 seconds. Before we get into the back bar, let's talk passives for bar 1. For our Arcanist skill line, for the first passive, we are receiving 12% increased critical damage and healing for 7 seconds anytime we use Cephaliarch's Flail or applying the Fulminating Rune, since we generate and consume crux with both of those skills. The second passive increases our damage for 10 seconds every time we are restored magicka or stamina, so that can come from heavy attacks and the elemental drain skill on our back bar. The third passive is Psychic Lesion, which increases our status effect damage by 15% and increases the effect chance by 50%. And lastly, my personal favorite, for every tome ability slotted, we get 1240 penetration, which is absolutely insane in my opinion. I won't read through the dual blade passives as I feel that would be quite redundant for most players, but feel free to give them a read. We're mainly focused on using maces here because it's going to give us extra penetration, but we will pick up all of the passives. The Fighter's Guild passives are great for this build. We benefit from 6% damage increase because we have 2 abilities slotted, and we deal increased damage to vampires and werewolves with our ultimate, which if you haven't noticed, everyone and their mother plays vampire for that damage reduction buff, so make sure you're slapping them with that Dawnbreaker. On the back bar in slot 1, I have Race Against Time, which gives us increased critical damage and a short movement speed increase. It also removes all snares and immobilizations, so really practice using this for escapes. It's far cheaper than trying to use Break Free and wasting stamina. With this ability slotted, we also gain benefit from the Concentrated Barrier passive in the Psijic Order skill line, giving us a 5000 damage shield every 10 seconds we're not bracing. In slot 2, I use Volatile Armor. This increases my resistance, can apply a dot if you're close enough to your enemy, and it will return damage to your enemy if they're attacking you in melee range. Since we will have high resistance at all times, this skill's damage is quite useful, so don't forget that it can be used for offense. Slot 3 is Coagulating Blood. This is our holy crap-oly I'm about to die spammable, and it also gives you a 30% health regen, which we can actually benefit from since we aren't a vampire. Slot 4 is Elemental Drain, which reduces your target's resistance by 6000 and applies minor magicka steal. So anytime a tick is going off, we're going to be getting magicka back. which, as I stated earlier, is great because we basically benefit from the Harness Quintessence passive at all times when we're attacking. Slot 5 is Resolving Vigor for the increased resistance and a powerful self-heal over time. And for the ultimate, I have Northern Storm. What's great about this is now both of our ultimates deal damage over time, and these are widely considered some of the best damage over time abilities, so you really can't go wrong with them. Northern Storm also works great on the back bar because it has reduced damage taken by 10%. Now the passives. In Draconic Power, we get 10% increased damage blocked. Awesome. When we have Coagulating Blood or Volatile Armor active, we get 9% increased healing, we get 646 extra health recovery on our back bar for having 2 Draconic Power abilities slotted, and we get a flat 2,974 extra resistance. In Winter's Embrace, we have an increased chance to apply the Chilled status effect by 250%, which is already benefiting from the Psychic Lesions by 55% in the Tome skill line, and it increases the damage by 385. Since we have Northern Storm on the skill bar, we get an extra 1240 resistance on the back bar. When enemies are attacking you in melee range, as they attack you, they can be afflicted with Major Maim, reducing their damage by 10%. And lastly, we have 8% further increased block, and frost damage is increased as well. Our frost staff can do far more damage than you might think with this Warden skill line, so don't forget to poke when you're in range of your enemy as often as possible. Speaking of our frost staff, do not get the Trifocus passive, as we want our blocking to use stamina, and we will use our magicka for our burst heal. With the Destruction staff equipped, we get another 100% status application increase, putting us at 405% increased chance to apply Chilled status effect, which can inflict Major Maim, reducing damage done by your opponent. And with the Ice staff, it's increasing their critical damage taken with Minor Brittle. The odds of this status firing are so high that with testing, I found that it's nearly 100% activation rate, and it hurts, and it only has a 3-second cooldown. We also benefit from a 36% cost reduction in blocking and 20% damage reduction while blocking, making that 38% damage mitigation while blocking, on top of our insane resistance, the Warden passives, and the 10% damage reduction if you activate Northern Storm. So if you're in danger, pull out your Ice staff, block, use Northern Storm, and with that, good luck to your enemies unless you're heavily outnumbered. The last passive isn't too powerful, but what it really comes down to is if you're on your back bar when an enemy you killed dies, you'll get a good chunk of magicka back. Make sure to fully complete your passives in the heavy armor and medium armor skill line, as you will need those as well. Now let's talk about champion points. In the warfare section, we are using Focused Mending for increased self-healing, Fighting Finesse for increased critical damage and critical healing, Deadly Aim for increased single target attack damage, and Thaumaturge for increased damage over time. In fitness, we are using Pain's Refuge for damage reduction based on negative effects, Rejuvenation for a little extra resource recovery, Sustained by Suffering for extra recovery when we have negative effects on us, and Fortified for extra armor. As always, the craft skill line is up to you. Now the stuff you really need to pay attention to. How the flip do we use this ridiculous setup that doesn't have a monster set or an antiquity? Well, let me show you. As always, when approaching an enemy, you want to buff up. So you apply Race Against Time, Volatile Armor, and Resolving Vigor. When you get close to your enemy, do a light attack with the Ice Staff. Then you'll apply Elemental Drain to your enemy using your staff setup. Pop Volatile Armor again if you're close enough, then bar swap. Use Cephaliarch's Flail to immobilize them. If they roll dodge out, make sure to follow up and get Blood Craze applied, and then use Recuperative Treatise. After activating that, use Fulminating Rune. This will inflict the damage from Recuperative Treatise, as well as start damaging over time. After that, start light weaving and spamming Blood Craze, and if they seem like they're panicking, smack them with Flawless Dawnbreaker for good measure. While spamming Blood Craze, don't forget to reapply your staff's ability with Elemental Drain. That really hurts, so make sure it's on there. If they have a Purify, Good luck with that. That's kind of the crux of DOT builds, so get used to it. We already know we benefit from 38% block mitigation, putting us at 75. With the ice staff and the 4 armor traits we have, 36% reduced cost of blocking as well. We should also be sitting at max resistance for the majority of any fight due to the Pariah Set. And we can just sit back, letting our dots work, while we spam Blood Craze and get the passive healing from our attacks. The unbuffed base stats on our front bar are 4,254 attack damage, 28.8% critical, and 14,901 penetration, with 25,827 resistances and 1,584 critical resistance. When we're buffed, we're at 4,640 attack damage, 28.8% critical, 14,901 penetration, with 34,749 resistances, and that's with 8,000 resistance in the Pariah Set just sitting in the tank as our health goes down. The recovery is not all that bad either, with almost 1,000 in magic recovery, 784 health recovery when you have coagulating blood up, and 1,177 stamina regen. Don't let the max stamina and max magic scare you. We have a ton of magic or recovery in our kit, and our abilities are quite cheap. This was all considered when I put the build together, since we lose out on the DragonKnight recovery passive on ultimate use. But if you play smart and use Race Against Time for snares, save some stamina when you're spamming, you'll be just fine with low capacity. I'm very happy with how this build turned out. I'd really like to know your thoughts on what you think about it, so please leave them in the comments. I'm going to turn this video over to some gameplay now, but don't forget to like and subscribe to support my channel, and I will see you in the next one, my dudes.